Imagine loving yourself so deeply that no betrayal, no heartbreak, no rejection could ever break you again. Imagine looking in the mirror and finally seeing not what the world made you believe, but who you truly are. That's what Buddhism teaches. The ultimate strength isn't found in fighting others, but in embracing yourself completely. When you stop chasing love from others and start becoming love itself, everything changes. You stop begging for attention, you stop shrinking to fit, and you stop breaking for people who were never meant to hold you. Because real power begins the moment you choose yourself fully, fiercely, unapologetically. So today, I want to take you on a journey, not towards someone else, but back home to yourself. These Buddhist lessons will teach you how to fall so in love with who you are that no one and nothing can ever break you again. 1. Your self-worth is not up for debate. Most people spend their entire lives chasing validation, trying to prove to others that they are worthy of love, attention, or success. They let the opinions of others shape how they see themselves. When someone praises them, they feel valuable. When someone criticizes them, they crumble. It's as if their self-esteem is a candle that anyone can blow out with a single breath. But true self-worth doesn't come from what others say or think about you. It comes from what you know about yourself deep within. Buddhism teaches that all suffering begins with attachment, and one of the strongest attachments we develop is the need for approval. We attach our happiness to the way others perceive us, and when that perception shifts, we suffer. When a person you love stops appreciating you, or when society ignores your efforts, it's easy to feel invisible or unimportant. But that feeling only arises when you've forgotten who you truly are. You are not the opinions of others. You are the awareness that watches those opinions come and go. You existed before anyone judged you, and you'll exist long after their voices fade. Your worth was never something that needed to be earned. It was born with you. Just as a diamond remains valuable, whether it's buried in the dirt or placed in a crown, your value doesn't change based on where you are or how others see you. The only difference is whether you recognize it. When you give people the power to define your worth, you also give them the power to destroy your peace. You start living like a puppet. Your emotions rise and fall based on how others treat you. One kind word makes you happy, one harsh word breaks you. But Buddhism teaches that inner peace begins when you stop depending on external forces to validate your existence. The Buddha said, "No one saves us but ourselves. No one can, and no one may. We ourselves must walk the path." This means no one else can give you self-worth. It's something you must reclaim by walking the path of awareness. Start by noticing how often you seek approval in small, unconscious ways, posting something just to be liked, dressing a certain way just to be noticed, or pretending to be happy so others don't see your pain. These are all forms of attachment, attachments to how the world views you. But when you learn to detach from that illusion, you begin to live freely. You stop living for the eyes of others and start living for the truth of your own heart. Remember, your worth doesn't increase when people like you, and it doesn't decrease when they don't. It's constant, unchanging, like the sky that remains vast and calm, even when clouds pass through it. The more you anchor your self-worth in your awareness, rather than in others' attention, the more peaceful you become. You begin to realize that rejection cannot harm you because it's no longer personal. It's simply life redirecting you toward those who can meet you at your level of self-love. When you understand your own value, you stop chasing love and start attracting it. You no longer settle for less because you know you are not less. You stop explaining your worth to people who are committed to misunderstanding you. You stop begging for respect because your energy itself demands it. That's the quiet confidence that comes from knowing who you are, not in comparison to anyone else, but in alignment with your own truth. To be unbreakable doesn't mean you never feel pain. It means you never let pain define you. It means that even when the world rejects you, your inner world remains untouched. Your peace is no longer a product of people's acceptance, but a reflection of your own awareness. You rise beyond rejection, beyond comparison, beyond the need to prove anything, because when you truly know your worth, you understand one powerful truth: your value was never a question to begin with. It is not up for debate. It simply is. 2. Fall in love with solitude. Most people fear being alone. They see solitude as emptiness, as silence that feels heavy and cold. They fill every quiet moment with distractions, endless scrolling, constant conversations, or staying in relationships that drain them just to avoid meeting themselves. But Buddhism teaches that solitude is not loneliness. It is the sacred space where your soul speaks and your mind finally listens. The Buddha himself found enlightenment in deep solitude, sitting beneath the Bodhi tree in silence, facing his own fears, thoughts, and illusions. That silence became the birthplace of wisdom. When you are constantly surrounded by noise, opinions, expectations, notifications, your mind becomes like muddy water. You can't see your reflection clearly. But when you sit alone, the mud settles. The water becomes still. You begin to see yourself not as the world labels you, but as you truly are. Pure awareness, unchanging and free. Solitude is the mirror that reflects your truth without distortion. It allows you to understand your desires, your pain, your purpose, and your peace. It teaches you that peace is not found in the presence of others, but in the presence of your own consciousness. Falling in love with solitude means learning to enjoy your own company. It means no longer waiting for someone else to make you feel complete. You begin to see your thoughts not as enemies, but as teachers. You listen to your fears without letting them control you. You observe your emotions rise and fall like waves, yet you remain the still ocean beneath. This is what mindfulness truly is, being present with yourself without judgment or escape. At first, solitude might feel uncomfortable because it strips away distractions. It brings you face to face with your inner world, the parts you've ignored, suppressed, or feared. But that confrontation is necessary. Healing cannot happen when you constantly run from yourself. The Buddha said, "You cannot travel the path until you have become the path itself." That means peace cannot come from the outside. It begins when you are no longer afraid to walk through the landscape of your own mind. Think of solitude as returning home after a long journey. You sit in the quiet of your own heart and realize that you were never truly alone. Your soul has been waiting patiently for your attention. You start to find joy in simple things: the sound of your breath, the warmth of sunlight, the silence of night. In those moments, you discover something profound. You are not missing anything. You are not lacking anyone. You are already whole. When you love solitude, you stop being dependent on others for emotional survival. You stop chasing people who can't see your worth just because you fear being alone. You stop begging for company that costs you your peace. Instead, you begin to attract relationships that match your calm, not your chaos. Because you no longer enter connections from emptiness, you enter them from fullness. You share your peace instead of seeking it. There's a power that arises when you no longer fear being by yourself. You become grounded, self-contained, and peaceful. No rejection can break you because you already have yourself. No silence can hurt you because silence becomes your sanctuary. You start to see solitude as strength, a sacred ground where wisdom grows, creativity blooms, and love for life deepens. The truth is, solitude is not the absence of love. It is the presence of your truest love, the love of self. When you fall in love with solitude, you begin to realize that being alone doesn't mean you are unloved. It means you've stopped abandoning yourself. You no longer seek others to complete you. You walk beside yourself with compassion and peace. And in that moment, the fear of being alone dissolves forever. You no longer run from silence, you return to it, because you understand that the quiet within you is not empty. It's full of everything you've been searching for all along. 3. Detach from needing to be chosen. One of the greatest illusions we carry is the belief that our worth depends on being chosen by a person, by a job, by a moment that validates us. From childhood, we're conditioned to seek approval. We wait for a parent's praise, a teacher's recognition, a friend's acceptance, or a partner's affection to feel good about ourselves. But Buddhism teaches that all suffering begins when we cling to what we think we need to be happy. And the need to be chosen, to be picked, liked, or loved is one of the subtlest forms of attachment that steals our peace. When someone rejects us, it can feel like our world collapses. We replay the moment in our minds, asking, "Why wasn't I enough?" But that question is rooted in illusion, because you were never unworthy. You were simply misaligned. Every time someone chooses not to see your light, it doesn't make the light disappear. It just means their eyes were not ready to perceive it. The Buddha taught that attachment to external validation is like holding on to a burning coal. We believe it gives warmth, but it only burns us. When you constantly chase to be chosen, you live at the mercy of others' preferences, and your peace becomes fragile, easily shattered by a single no. Detaching from this need means realizing that your value doesn't depend on how many people choose you. It depends on how deeply you choose yourself. You no longer wait for someone to open the door for you, you build your own. You stop hoping for someone to save you, you become your own savior. Choosing yourself is not about arrogance or pride. It's about recognizing your responsibility to honor your own soul. Because every time you neglect your needs just to be accepted, you silently tell yourself that others are more important than your peace. Think of a flower. It blooms not to be chosen, but because blooming is its nature. Whether anyone admires it or not, it continues to blossom. The same applies to you. Your purpose is not to be admired, it's to grow, evolve, and express the beauty of your being. When you understand this, rejection stops feeling like a wound. It becomes a redirection. You begin to see that when one path closes, it's because another, more aligned with your truth, is waiting to open. Detachment doesn't mean you stop caring or stop loving people. It means you love without chains. You give without expecting something in return. You understand that the right people, opportunities, and moments will always find you, not because you chase them, but because your energy calls them naturally. You stop begging to be seen and start living as your own source of visibility. You stop seeking validation and start living in alignment with your truth. When you no longer need to be chosen, you become magnetic. You radiate calm confidence because you are no longer trying to prove anything. You become someone who is not afraid of walking away from what doesn't serve peace. And ironically, that's when life starts choosing you. The right people, the right places, and the right blessings appear. Not because you forced them to, but because you finally stopped chasing what was never meant for you. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection." This means you don't have to earn your right to be loved. You don't have to beg to be picked. You were chosen the moment you were created by existence itself. All that's left is for you to realize it. So stop waiting for someone else's recognition to feel worthy. Stop thinking you need to be part of someone else's story to feel whole. You are already the main character of your own journey. When you truly choose yourself, your peace, your growth, your authenticity, you stop fearing rejection because you finally understand you cannot lose what was never meant for you, and you cannot be broken by what you no longer depend on. Freedom begins the moment you stop chasing to be chosen and start living as the one who chooses to love, to let go, and to walk your path with quiet, unshakable confidence. 4. Heal the inner child that still seeks approval. Inside every adult lives a younger self, a child who once felt unseen, unheard, or unworthy. That child still whispers in your mind when you fear rejection, still trembles when you're criticized, and still craves the words, "You did well." The reason so many people feel broken after a relationship ends or when someone disapproves of them is because it awakens that child, the one who still believes love must be earned. Buddhism teaches that suffering is born from ignorance, the ignorance of who we truly are. And this wounded child within us forgets that they were always worthy of love, even before they proved anything to anyone. To heal the inner child, you must first recognize that they exist. Most people bury this part of themselves under layers of achievement, success, or control, thinking they've outgrown their pain. But no matter how old you get, the unhealed child still shapes your behavior. They are the one who tries too hard to please everyone. They are the one who apologizes for existing. They are the one who stays in painful relationships because being alone feels like abandonment. Healing begins the moment you stop ignoring that voice and start listening with compassion. Sit quietly and imagine that younger version of you, the one who tried their best, who maybe didn't get the love they needed, who felt they had to be perfect to be accepted. See their face, feel their fear, then tell them something they've never heard before. You are enough. You always were. This is not imagination. This is inner awakening. Buddhism calls this metta-loving kindness, the practice of sending unconditional compassion to yourself and others. When you direct this compassion inward, you begin to free yourself from the patterns that kept you trapped in self-doubt. Understand that healing your inner child doesn't mean erasing your past. It means changing your relationship with it. Every wound you carry is not proof of weakness, but a doorway to deeper awareness. The child in you learned to survive in a world that didn't always feel safe. They developed walls, habits, and fears as protection. Don't hate those walls. Thank them. They kept you alive. But now that you are older, wiser, and conscious, you no longer need them. Healing means gently dismantling those defenses with love, not force. When you nurture your inner child, you stop expecting others to fill that void. You stop trying to make partners, friends, or family play the role of healer. You realize that no one else can give you the love that your younger self needed, only you can. And when you finally give yourself that love, something extraordinary happens. The constant need for approval dissolves. You stop seeking validation from others because you no longer feel empty inside. You don't chase love anymore. You become love. The Buddha once said, "If your compassion does not include yourself, it is incomplete." Many of us think being self-compassionate means being selfish, but it's the opposite. The more love you give to the wounded child inside you, the more peaceful you become. And that peace naturally radiates outward in your words, your presence, your relationships. When you stop demanding from others what you've already given yourself, your connections become purer. You no longer love out of need, you love out of abundance. Spend time each day connecting with that inner child. Meditate, write to them, or simply place a hand over your heart and say, "I see you, I love you, you are safe now." Feel the tenderness that arises. That's your true power, the ability to love yourself back to wholeness. This love is not loud or dramatic. It's quiet, patient, and forgiving. It allows you to release the pain of the past without bitterness. When your inner child heals, your adult self transforms. You stop being triggered by others because you no longer see them through the lens of old wounds. You stop trying to fix yourself because you realize there was nothing broken, only forgotten. The need for approval fades because the child who once begged to be loved finally feels loved by you. And that's when you reach a beautiful truth. No one's rejection can harm you when your inner child feels accepted. No one's absence can break you when you have become your own protector. Healing your inner child is not just emotional recovery, it's spiritual liberation. It's remembering that love was never something to be chased. It was always something waiting to be rediscovered within you. 5. Let go of emotional dependency. Emotional dependency is one of the most silent prisons the human heart can live in. It's the invisible chain that makes you believe that without someone's love, attention, or approval, you cannot survive. Many people confuse this with love, but in truth, it's attachment, the very root of suffering that the Buddha warned us about. Love, in its purest form, is freedom. Attachment, on the other hand, is fear. Fear of loss, fear of abandonment, fear of being alone with yourself. When your peace depends on another person's presence, words, or moods, you have handed them the remote control to your emotions, and as long as they hold it, your happiness will always be unstable. Buddhism teaches that upadana, clinging or grasping, is what binds us to suffering. This grasping shows up when we think, "I need this person to be happy," or "I can't live without them." But the truth is, the pain doesn't come from losing someone, it comes from believing that your joy depended on them. The mind creates a false story that love is something external, that peace is something given. But when you awaken to awareness, you realize that no one else has ever truly given you happiness. They only reflected the happiness that already existed within you. Think of it like the sun and the clouds. Your inner peace is the sun always shining. Relationships, people, and experiences are clouds. They come and go. Sometimes they brighten your world, sometimes they cast shadows. But the mistake we make is believing that the clouds create the light. So when they disappear, we feel lost. Yet the sun was never gone, it was only hidden behind temporary illusions. Emotional freedom comes when you stop confusing the clouds for the source of your light. Letting go of emotional dependency doesn't mean becoming cold or distant. It means loving with awareness. It means realizing that you can care deeply for someone without losing yourself in the process. You can walk beside someone without clinging to them. You can share your heart without making them the center of your universe. The Buddha said, "You only lose what you cling to." And the deeper the attachment, the greater the suffering when it ends. When you love with attachment, every word they say becomes a trigger. Every silence feels like rejection, and every argument feels like a storm. But when you love with awareness, you remain steady because your happiness no longer depends on external waves. It flows from the still lake within you. Ask yourself, how many times have you mistaken attachment for love? How many times have you stayed in relationships that drained you simply because the thought of being alone terrified you? How often have you tried to fix someone else just to feel needed? These are all signs of dependency, not love. Real love doesn't say, "I need you to make me whole." It says, "I want to walk with you because I am already whole." True freedom begins when you stop looking for emotional rescue and start building emotional resilience. This means learning to comfort yourself when you're hurt, to be your own safe space when the world feels unkind, to hold your own hand when loneliness visits. When you realize you can do this, you stop fearing loss because you understand that everything and everyone in life is temporary. That realization doesn't make love weaker, it makes it purer. You love not because you're afraid of losing someone, but because you genuinely wish them peace, even if that peace leads them away from you. In Buddhist mindfulness, detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means choosing peace over possession. It means saying, "I love you, but I do not own you. I care for you, but I do not control you. I will not cling to you, because I trust the flow of life more than my fear of losing." This kind of love is rare, but it's the only kind that can never break you. Because when love is born from awareness, it is no longer a transaction, it is a blessing. As you let go of dependency, you'll start to notice a beautiful shift. Your relationships will stop feeling heavy. You won't panic when someone pulls away, because your peace won't go with them. You won't chase love, you'll attract it naturally. People will feel safer around you because your love won't demand, it will accept. You'll stop begging for consistency from those who can't give it, because you'll become consistent within yourself. It's not easy to reach this point, because emotional dependency feels intoxicating. The highs are euphoric, the lows are unbearable, but both are illusions created by the ego's need to feel connected through control. To break this cycle, you must practice conscious awareness daily. Sit in meditation and observe your cravings, the urge to text someone, the anxiety when they don't reply, the emptiness when they're not around. Instead of reacting, just observe. Feel it rise, watch it fall. Slowly, you'll begin to see that the craving loses power. The more you witness your attachments, the weaker they become. Awareness dissolves dependency, the way sunlight melts frost, not by force, but by presence. There is immense power in realizing that no one completes you because you were never incomplete. When you understand this, you don't build your happiness on someone else's foundation, you build it within yourself. And when someone walks into your life, they don't fill your void, they expand your peace. You begin to love from fullness, not from fear. You share your joy instead of begging for it. You become so centered in your own being that, whether people stay or go, you remain whole. Remember this truth. Emotional independence is not the absence of love, it's the evolution of love. It's when love no longer means dependency but liberation. It's when you say, I can love you deeply and still be free. That is the love Buddhism teaches, a love without chains, without fear, without need. And once you learn to love like that, no one can ever break you again. Because your peace is no longer a gift borrowed from others, it's the power that has always lived within you. 6. Forgive yourself for forgetting who you are. There comes a time in everyone's life when the weight of regret feels unbearable, when we look back at choices we made, words we said, or paths we took and think, I should have known better. But the truth is, if you had known better, you would have done better. You were learning, evolving, growing through confusion and pain. Yet so many people continue to punish themselves long after life has already forgiven them. They replay the past over and over, as if guilt could somehow change it. Buddhism teaches that clinging to guilt and shame is one of the greatest causes of suffering because it traps the mind in what no longer exists. Forgiveness is not about erasing what happened. It's about releasing the grip it has on your soul. Think about this. When you hold on to guilt, you are carrying the ashes of something that has already burned. The fire is gone, but you still keep its remains close, hoping it might somehow bring you peace. But ashes can't warm you, they only weigh you down. In the same way, the past cannot heal you, only awareness can. The Buddha said, "You will not be punished for your anger, you will be punished by your anger." The same is true for guilt. It doesn't punish you because it exists. It punishes you because you keep feeding it. Forgiving yourself begins with understanding. Every version of you that existed, the scared one, the reckless one, the one who stayed too long, the one who hurt others, the one who let themselves be hurt, all of them were doing their best with the awareness they had at the time. They were trying to survive, to love, to belong. The moment you see your past self with compassion instead of judgment, healing begins. Buddhism calls this karuna, the compassion that arises when wisdom and love meet. It's the realization that you were never meant to be perfect, only present. We live in a culture that glorifies perfection and hides vulnerability. But life was never meant to be a straight line of flawless choices. It's a spiral. Every mistake, every fall, every detour brings you closer to understanding. The pain you regret was not a punishment, it was a teacher. It shaped your awareness, strengthened your empathy, and guided you toward becoming the person you are now. Forgiveness, then, is not weakness, it's maturity. It's when you stop seeing your past as a prison and start seeing it as preparation. Sit quietly and reflect on the things you haven't forgiven yourself for. Maybe you stayed in a toxic relationship, because you feared being alone. Maybe you hurt someone you loved out of fear or confusion. Maybe you lost yourself trying to please everyone around you. Now take a deep breath and tell yourself, I forgive you. You were trying to find love in the only ways you knew how. You were learning. Notice the softening that happens in your chest when you say that. That is healing. Forgiveness is not a one-time event, it's a daily practice. Some wounds will resurface when you least expect it. But instead of running from them, greet them with compassion. When regret visits, don't resist it. Sit with it. Let it speak. Ask it what lesson it's trying to teach you, and then let it go. The Buddha taught that when we resist emotions, they grow stronger, but when we observe them with awareness, they lose their power. This is the art of vipassana, seeing things as they truly are. Guilt is not the truth, it's a thought. Shame is not your identity, it's an emotion. And both can pass like clouds in a clear sky if you stop holding on to them. Understand this deeply. You cannot heal by hating the parts of yourself that suffered. Healing begins the moment you embrace those parts with love. You don't need to erase your past, you need to integrate it. The person you are now is the result of every mistake you once made, every heartbreak you endured, and every failure you survived. Instead of wishing it were different, bow to it. Thank your journey for shaping your wisdom. Thank your pain for opening your heart. When you forgive yourself, you reclaim your energy. You stop pouring it into memories that no longer serve you and start using it to build a peaceful present. You begin to see beauty even in the broken moments. You stop expecting perfection and start celebrating progress. That's when real self-love begins, when you no longer treat yourself like a problem to fix, but as a soul to understand. The Buddha once said, "Holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Holding on to guilt is the same, except the poison burns you from within. It fills you with unworthiness and self-doubt, making you believe you don't deserve peace. But forgiveness neutralizes that poison. It reminds you that you were never defined by your mistakes, but by how you rise after them. When you truly forgive yourself, you stop identifying with your pain. You start to see yourself not as a victim of the past, but as a student of life. You understand that every scar is a story of strength, every fall was a step toward awakening, and you realize that forgiving yourself is not just about finding peace, it's about remembering who you are beyond all the noise. You are not your failures, you are not your guilt, you are not the person others once judged you to be. You are the awareness watching all of that unfold, timeless, vast, and unbroken. So, let go. The person you were is gone. The person you are becoming deserves your love, your kindness, and your forgiveness. And once you give that to yourself, the world will no longer have the power to break you because you've already set yourself free. 7. There is a kind of power that can't be shaken by anyone's absence, betrayal, or rejection, the power of inner peace. Most people spend their lives chasing it through others, hoping love, success, or companionship will finally fill the emptiness inside. They look outward, believing peace is something to be found, earned, or given. But the Buddha taught that peace comes from within. Do not seek it without. True peace is not something you stumble upon, it is something you create within yourself, moment by moment, through awareness, self-love, and understanding. When your peace depends on external circumstances, you are always in danger of losing it. The smallest thing, a harsh word, a sudden change, a disappointment can throw you off balance. But when your peace is rooted in your consciousness, It becomes immovable. Like a mountain standing tall through storms and sunshine alike, you remain steady no matter what happens around you. This is the kind of peace Buddhism points toward, not a temporary calm when everything is perfect, but a deep and unshakable serenity that remains even when life is chaotic. To become the source of your own peace, you must first stop outsourcing your happiness. Stop waiting for someone to fix you, to notice you, or to love you in a way that makes you feel whole. The truth is, no one can make you feel secure if you don't already feel that way within yourself. Even the most loving relationship will eventually mirror your inner state if you are restless inside. No one's presence can calm you for long, but if you are grounded within, even solitude feels sacred. Peace doesn't mean isolation. It means being so centered that no external situation can disturb the inner temple of your heart. Every time you expect others to provide your happiness, you give away your power. You make them the gatekeepers of your peace. When they're kind, you feel loved. When they're distant, you feel abandoned. When they leave, you feel broken. But peace begins when you take that power back. It begins the moment you decide, I am responsible for my own energy. This doesn't mean you stop caring for others. It means you stop depending on them for your emotional survival. You love them freely, without fear, because your peace no longer lives in their hands. In Buddhist mindfulness practice, peace is not the absence of emotion, it's the awareness behind emotion. It's the observer within you that watches joy, anger, sadness, and love come and go, without clinging to any of them. You realize that peace isn't something you must fight for, it's your natural state, buried beneath years of noise, expectations, and desire. To rediscover it, you must unlearn the habit of looking outward. Every time something disturbs you, instead of blaming the outside world, turn inward and ask, what part of me is reacting? What wound is this touching? This question brings clarity, and clarity is peace. When you cultivate inner peace, you stop overreacting to life. You no longer take things personally because you understand that everyone acts according to their level of awareness. You no longer seek revenge or validation because you see that anger and pride only poison your own soul. You stop arguing with reality and start flowing with it. The more you resist life, the more you suffer. But the more you accept life as it is, the lighter you become. Acceptance doesn't mean giving up. It means trusting that whatever is happening is exactly what you need to awaken deeper understanding. Becoming the source of your peace also means setting boundaries not out of anger, but out of love for yourself. You begin to recognize that protecting your energy is not selfish, it's sacred. You no longer chase people who drain you. You no longer beg for attention from those who ignore you. You learn that silence is an answer, distance is protection, and peace is the most valuable currency you'll ever own. You start saying no without guilt, because every no to chaos is a yes to your soul. When you are the source of your own peace, relationships transform. You no longer enter them to fill a void, you enter them to share fullness. You love without attachment, because you no longer fear loss. You give freely without expecting anything in return, because your peace is already complete. You start to see everyone not as a threat to your peace, but as a mirror reflecting your state of consciousness. Some will teach you patience, some will teach you forgiveness, and some will simply teach you to let go. The Buddha once said, "Just as a solid rock is not shaken by the storm, even so the wise are not affected by praise or blame." When you embody this truth, you stop being reactive. Whether someone praises you or criticizes you, your peace remains the same. Whether life blesses you or tests you, you remain anchored. You understand that everything external is temporary. People change, seasons shift, fortunes rise and fall. But the peace you cultivate within is eternal. It becomes your silent companion in every situation, in joy and sorrow, in noise and silence, in company and solitude. Start small. Begin each day with the intention to be peaceful. Breathe deeply before reacting. Observe before speaking. Spend time in stillness. Even 5 minutes of silence can reset your inner state. Meditate, walk in nature, or simply sit with yourself. The more you connect with your own presence, the more your peace grows. You begin to feel that nothing is missing, that everything you once chased was already within you. When you reach this understanding, heartbreaks no longer destroy you, they expand your compassion. Rejections no longer humiliate you, they redirect your path. Loneliness no longer frightens you, it becomes your meditation. Because you've discovered that peace isn't something you have to protect, it's something that protects you. And perhaps the most beautiful realization of all is this: when you become the source of your own peace, you become a source of peace for others. Your calm presence becomes healing. Your stillness becomes strength. People feel safe around you, not because you fix them, but because your energy reminds them that they can fix themselves. This is the highest form of love, the kind that doesn't bind, doesn't beg, doesn't break. So love yourself so deeply that your peace becomes untouchable. Love yourself so completely that your joy no longer depends on what stays or leaves. You will discover that the world doesn't need to change for you to be free. You simply need to return home to the quiet truth within you. You are already whole. You are already enough. And you are already the peace you've been searching for all along. 8. The art of loving without losing yourself. Most people enter relationships, friendships, family bonds, romantic connections, believing that love means sacrifice. They give and give until there's nothing left of themselves, mistaking exhaustion for devotion. They think love is about merging so completely with another person that their own needs, boundaries, and dreams dissolve in the process. But this is not love. It is attachment wearing the mask of love. True love, as the Buddha taught, does not chain you. It liberates you. It allows you to give deeply without losing yourself in the process. The art of loving without losing yourself is the highest form of spiritual balance, a union between compassion and awareness, connection and freedom. To understand this art, you must first look at how most of us learn love. From childhood, we are taught that love is something we earn through pleasing, performing, or proving our worth. When we behave, we are rewarded with affection. When we don't, we are punished with silence or withdrawal. So we grow up believing love is conditional, that to receive it, we must shrink, adapt, or hide parts of ourselves. This conditioning creates adults who love desperately instead of consciously, who chase validation, fear rejection, and bend themselves into shapes that fit the expectations of others. But Buddhist wisdom reminds us, attachment is the root of suffering. And nowhere does this truth echo louder than in love. Attachment-based love says, I need you to make me happy. Conscious love says, I am already whole, and I choose to share that wholeness with you. The difference may seem small, but it changes everything. When your happiness depends on another person, you live in constant fear. Fear of losing them, fear of displeasing them, fear of being alone. But when your happiness comes from your own inner peace, you can love fearlessly because you are not afraid of being without. That is what loving without losing yourself means. You love fully, but you don't collapse. You open your heart, but you remain grounded in your own being. Buddhism teaches that love should be rooted in metta, loving kindness, karuna, compassion, mudita, sympathetic joy, and upekkha, equanimity. These are the 4 divine abodes, the states of love that free rather than bind. When you love with metta, you wish well for others, not because you need something in return, but because love is your nature. When you love with karuna, you feel others' suffering without becoming consumed by it. When you love with mudita, you celebrate others' happiness instead of competing with it. And when you love with upekkha, You remain balanced, not detached from care, but detached from control. These four qualities are the foundation of a love that does not destroy the self, but expands it. Loving without losing yourself begins with awareness, the awareness that you are already complete. You don't enter love to fill a void. You enter to share your light. This awareness protects you from the illusion that love must come with sacrifice. It teaches you that boundaries are not barriers, they are bridges of respect that allow love to flow safely between two souls. Without boundaries, love turns into chaos. With them, love becomes harmony. Saying no when something doesn't feel right isn't unloving, it's the highest form of self-respect. And when you respect yourself, your love becomes purer, not weaker. Imagine two trees growing side by side. Their roots intertwine beneath the soil, and their branches may touch, but each stands on its own. Neither leans on the other for survival. They both grow toward the sun, together yet independent. That's what healthy love looks like. It's not about dependency, it's about interconnection. When one tree grows taller, it doesn't overshadow the other, it inspires it. When storms come, both stand firm because each has deep roots of its own. Love without self-awareness, on the other hand, looks like one tree wrapping around the other until both can no longer breathe. That's not connection, that's suffocation. To love without losing yourself, you must learn to love with consciousness, not with need. You must understand that real love doesn't mean rescuing or fixing others. It means seeing them clearly and loving them as they are. You can hold space for someone's pain without drowning in it. You can support them without carrying their burdens as your own. Compassion becomes unhealthy when it forgets balance. The Buddha called this the middle way, not too attached, not too distant. In relationships, this means not clinging in fear of losing and not withdrawing in fear of being hurt. It means staying present, grounded, and kind both to others and to yourself. Many people lose themselves in love because they forget that the first relationship they must nurture is the one with themselves. You cannot pour from an empty cup. You cannot heal others if you are bleeding inside. Loving yourself is not a selfish act, it's an act of wisdom. It ensures that what you give comes from fullness, not from lack. When you know how to soothe your own heart, you stop depending on others to do it for you. You become emotionally self-sufficient, which is the foundation of inner peace. And paradoxically, when you no longer need love to survive, you attract healthier, deeper love because neediness repels, but wholeness radiates. In moments of conflict, this wisdom becomes your anchor. When disagreements arise, you don't immediately react from ego or fear. Instead, you pause, breathe, and respond with awareness. You remember that your peace is your responsibility, not something your partner or friend can give or take away. You can express your truth without aggression, you can disagree without disrespect, and you can walk away when love turns into harm. That's what it means to love consciously, to choose peace over pride, clarity over chaos. Sometimes loving without losing yourself also means knowing when to let go. Many people stay in relationships long after the connection has turned into suffering because they confuse letting go with failure. But Buddhism teaches that everything in life is impermanent, even love. To let go doesn't mean to stop caring. It means to stop clinging. You can release someone and still love them. You can walk away and still wish them peace. The ability to love and let go simultaneously is the ultimate expression of inner strength. It shows that your heart has matured beyond possession, that it understands love as a flow, not a cage. Remember this: love that demands you to betray yourself is not love, it's attachment. If you have to silence your truth, compromise your peace, or sacrifice your dreams just to be loved, you are not in a relationship, you are in a contract of fear. Real love honors individuality. It allows both souls to grow. It respects distance as much as closeness. It allows each person to walk their path, sometimes side by side, sometimes apart, yet always rooted in mutual respect and understanding. When you master this art, something extraordinary happens. Your love becomes unbreakable, not because it never faces pain, but because it no longer depends on circumstances. You can lose people and still remain whole. You can experience heartbreak and still remain kind. You can walk through solitude and still feel love flowing through you, because you've learned that love was never something outside you to begin with. It was the essence of your being all along. To love without losing yourself is to walk through life with an open heart and steady mind. It's to give without fear, to forgive without resentment, and to connect without attachment. It's to understand that love is not possession but presence. It is not about holding tightly, but about holding gently. It's when you stop trying to own love and start allowing it to move through you. In the end, love is not a transaction, it's a reflection of your consciousness. The more peaceful you are inside, the more peaceful your love becomes. The more aware you are of your worth, the less likely you are to accept love that hurts. And when you finally fall so deeply in love with yourself that you no longer need anyone to complete you, you become capable of the purest love, one that gives freely, forgives easily, and never fears losing. Because when you've found peace within your own heart, you can love anyone and still remain whole. You can stand in the storm and not be moved. You can open your heart again and again, knowing that even if others walk away, your love will remain not because of them, but because of who you've become. That is the ultimate freedom to love completely, yet belong fully to yourself. And once you reach that place, no one can ever break you again. 9. The unshakable heart. How to stay whole when the world tests. There comes a moment in life when everything you once relied upon begins to shift. People leave, circumstances change, and plans you held tightly crumble right in front of you. The things you thought would last forever turn into memories, and the people who promised to stay slowly drift away. In those moments, most hearts break not because of the loss itself, but because we've built our sense of peace on things that were never meant to be permanent. Buddhism teaches that impermanence is the very nature of existence, anicca. Nothing stays, nothing belongs, and yet we keep grasping at the fleeting, hoping it will make us feel safe. But the truth is, the only real safety you'll ever find is within yourself. The unshakable heart is not one that never feels pain. It is the heart that learns how to remain open, even in the midst of it. It does not close itself off out of fear, nor does it depend on the world to stay still in order to be peaceful. Instead, it learns to dance with change. It learns that love and loss, joy and sorrow, beginning and ending, are all part of the same sacred rhythm. When you stop resisting this rhythm, you stop breaking every time the beat changes. You begin to realize that peace is not the absence of chaos, but the calm awareness that watches chaos come and go without being swept away. To cultivate an unshakable heart, you must first understand how attachment weakens you. The Buddha compared attachment to a rope around the neck. It may feel comforting at first, but it slowly tightens with every expectation. When we attach our happiness to people, we secretly give them power over our emotional state. When they stay, we feel worthy. When they leave, we feel empty. But people are not anchors, they are waves. They come, they go, and they move according to their own tides. The only true anchor you have is the stillness within you, the awareness that never leaves, even when everything else does. This stillness is what Buddhism calls your true nature, a state of pure consciousness, untouched by circumstances. When you connect to this part of yourself, you begin to see the world differently. You no longer take things so personally. You stop chasing after what leaves and stop clinging to what no longer fits. You begin to understand that everything that departs is simply making space for something that aligns more deeply with your growth. The unshakable heart doesn't beg for permanence in an impermanent world. It flows with life, trusting that what is meant to stay will stay effortlessly. But developing this strength takes practice and compassion, because the truth is, being human means you will get attached, you will love deeply, and you will feel pain when that love shifts or disappears. To deny this would be to deny your humanity. So, the goal is not to suppress emotion, but to understand it. When heartbreak visits, don't run from it. Sit with it. Let it show you where you've built illusions of control. Let it soften you instead of harden you. Pain, when observed without resistance, becomes the path to wisdom. Every tear you shed with awareness cleanses the dust of attachment from your heart. The Buddha said, "Pain is certain, suffering is optional." The difference lies in whether you cling to the pain or allow it to pass through you. Most suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from the stories we tell ourselves about what happens. I'll never find love again. I've lost everything. I can't go on. These thoughts keep the wound alive long after the event has ended. The unshakable heart doesn't deny pain, but it doesn't feed it either. It observes it, honors it, learns from it, and then lets it go. To live with an unshakable heart is to realize that peace is not a destination, it's a practice. It's not something you find once and keep forever. It's something you renew each day through awareness. Every morning you have a choice: to wake up and let the world control your emotions, or to ground yourself in stillness before you face it. Meditation, mindfulness, deep breathing, these are not rituals of escape, but anchors of remembrance. They remind you that no matter what happens outside, you can always return home to yourself. The heart that learns to find peace within itself becomes untouchable. It stops chasing temporary highs and learns to rest in contentment. It stops reacting impulsively and learns to respond with wisdom. You begin to see every challenge as an opportunity to deepen your awareness. When someone hurts you, you don't seek revenge, you seek understanding. When life closes one door, you don't panic, you listen for where the wind is now guiding you. You begin to move with grace instead of resistance. This doesn't mean life will stop testing you. Even the Buddha faced loss, grief, and pain. But he learned that peace does not mean a life free from storms. It means learning how to stand in the rain without drowning. The unshakable heart knows that even the harshest winters eventually give way to spring. It trusts the process. It forgives easily, not because it's naive, but because it refuses to let anger live rent-free in its soul. It understands that forgiveness isn't about the other person, it's about reclaiming your inner peace. There's a quiet power in being able to say, "You can hurt me, but you cannot break me." Not out of arrogance, but out of realization that your peace no longer depends on what anyone does or doesn't do. When your happiness comes from awareness, not approval, you become free. You can love someone deeply and still let them go. You can lose everything and still smile with gratitude. You can walk through pain and still remain kind. This is what makes the heart unshakable. It loves without clinging. It feels without drowning, it gives without expecting, and it stands without falling. In daily life, you can practice this strength in small ways. When someone criticizes you, pause before reacting. Ask yourself, is this about me or about them? Most of the time, it's about them, their pain, their perception, their projection. When things don't go as planned, instead of saying, "Why me?" say, "What is this teaching me?" Every frustration becomes a teacher when you view it through awareness. Slowly, the little things that once disturbed you lose their grip. You stop needing the world to behave in order for you to be calm. To keep your heart unshakable, return often to silence. Spend time alone, not as an escape, but as nourishment. Solitude allows you to recharge, to realign, to remember your wholeness. It teaches you that peace is not found in the noise of validation, but in the quiet recognition of your true self. When you learn to be at peace in your own presence, loneliness transforms into serenity. You no longer chase people to fill your emptiness because you've discovered that emptiness is not a curse, it's spaciousness. It's the space in which peace, creativity, and wisdom grow. The unshakable heart does not mean an unfeeling one. On the contrary, it feels everything: joy, sorrow, love, grief. But it doesn't become those feelings. It experiences them fully, yet remains rooted in awareness. Like the ocean, it can have wild waves on the surface while the depths remain still. This is emotional mastery, not suppression, but stillness amidst motion. When you reach this level of inner peace, people will wonder how you remain calm in chaos. The answer is simple: because you've learned that peace is not something you find after the storm, it is something you carry through the storm. And perhaps the greatest secret of all is this: the world doesn't change when you become unshakable, you do. The same storms that once shattered you now polish you. The same endings that once broke you now set you free. The same silence that once scared you now becomes your meditation. You begin to realize that peace was never something you had to search for. It was what remained when you stopped resisting life. When your heart becomes unshakable, you walk differently. You speak less, but with purpose. You love more, but without fear. You give generously, but without expectation. You live fully, but without attachment. And the beauty of it all is that nothing outside you needs to change for this peace to exist. The chaos of the world may continue, but you no longer mirror it, you witness it with compassion and calm. The unshakable heart is not built in comfort. It is forged through loss, through loneliness, through the quiet nights when you thought you'd never find peace again. But every time you chose to breathe instead of break, to forgive instead of fight, to sit with pain instead of escape it, you were building that strength. You were learning the sacred art of being whole in a world that keeps changing. So let this be your truth. No one can destroy what is rooted in awareness. No one can take away the peace that lives within you. You are not defined by who leaves or what ends. You are defined by how deeply you can love, how calmly you can endure, and how gently you can rise again. That is the essence of the unshakable heart, soft yet indestructible, open yet protected, human yet infinite. And once you awaken this within yourself, the world may test you, but it will never break you again. Shi, the mirror within, seeing yourself as the source, not the shadow. At some point in life, everyone faces a quiet yet profound realization that every experience, every heartbreak, every joy, and every challenge has been a reflection of what is happening inside you. The world has always been your mirror. The faces you love, the people who hurt you, the situations that uplift or break you, all of them are reflections of your internal state. Yet most of us go through life trying to change the reflection without ever touching the source. We try to rearrange the outer world to feel better inside, forgetting that true peace, confidence, and love can never come from what is temporary. The Buddha taught that we become what we think. The mind is the forerunner of all things. When you master the way you see yourself, the world changes around you not because it has changed, but because your perception has. The art of seeing yourself as the source begins with awareness, realizing that your mind is a lens, not a prison. Everything you see is filtered through your beliefs, emotions, and past experiences. If that lens is clouded with self-doubt, everything you experience will echo that vibration. Someone's silence will feel like rejection, a delay will feel like failure, a loss will feel like punishment. But if that same lens is clear, if you see yourself as whole, capable, and worthy, then silence becomes peace, delay becomes redirection, and loss becomes transformation. You stop being a victim of circumstances and become a conscious participant in your own evolution. Buddhism teaches that the self most people defend so fiercely, the I that wants, fears, and resists, is an illusion. This illusion, called anatta, no self, is the root of all suffering. We spend years protecting an identity made of stories, achievements, opinions, and memories. We cling to it as if it defines our worth. But when you start to observe your thoughts and emotions without identifying with them, something extraordinary happens. You begin to see that you are not the story. You are the awareness in which the story unfolds. The moment you understand this, you become free from the constant need to control the world. You stop trying to fix people, to impress others, to chase validation. You realize that everything you seek outside has been quietly waiting within you all along. Imagine standing before a mirror and seeing your reflection frown. You wouldn't try to fix the mirror. You would simply smile, knowing the reflection will change. Yet in life, we do the opposite. When we feel unloved, we chase people who reject us. When we feel small, we overcompensate with pride or competition. When we feel empty, we fill ourselves with noise, more things, more people, more distractions. But all this time, the issue was never outside. The mirror the world simply reflects the way you see yourself. If you want the reflection to change, you must shift what stands before it. This is not about blaming yourself for what happens in life. It's about reclaiming your power. When you realize that you are the source of your emotional world, you stop reacting blindly. You stop waiting for peace to come from somewhere else. You start becoming intentional about what you cultivate within. Every time you choose gratitude over resentment, awareness over reaction, or forgiveness over bitterness, you polish the mirror of your mind. Slowly, life begins to reflect more harmony, more love, more grace, not because the universe suddenly changed, but because your consciousness did. The mind, when untamed, acts like a restless monkey, jumping from one branch of thought to another, never satisfied, always searching for something more. Buddhism teaches that mindfulness, the art of observing without judgment, is how we tame that monkey. When you observe your own thoughts instead of being pulled by them, you discover how much of your pain is self-created. Most of our suffering doesn't come from what happens, but from the stories we tell ourselves about what happens. The untrained mind says, "I failed, so I'm worthless." The awakened mind says, "I failed, so I learned." The untrained mind says, "They hurt me, so I must close my heart." The awakened mind says, "They hurt me, but I choose not to carry that pain forward." The mirror reflects what you project, and when you project understanding instead of resistance, your entire world softens. To see yourself as the source also means taking responsibility for your energy. Every emotion you hold radiates outward like ripples on water. When you carry fear, the world appears threatening. When you carry love, the world appears kind. You start to realize that peace is contagious, that kindness creates a field of calm around you, and that forgiveness releases invisible chains from your heart. The Buddha once said, "Hatred does not cease by hatred, but only by love. This is the eternal rule." Every time you choose to respond with love rather than anger, you shift not only your inner state but the energy of every interaction you have. The reflection changes because the light within you changes. However, this doesn't mean ignoring pain or pretending to be positive all the time. Seeing yourself as the source means facing your shadow with compassion, not denial. The shadow is the part of you that hides your fears, insecurities, and suppressed emotions. When you ignore it, it controls you. When you face it with awareness, it transforms into wisdom. Sit quietly and notice the parts of yourself you've rejected, the jealousy, the anger, the sadness, the guilt. Instead of fighting them, ask what they're trying to teach you. Every shadow exists because something inside you once needed protection. When you hold it with love instead of judgment, it begins to dissolve. Healing is not about fixing what's wrong, it's about embracing what's wounded with understanding. In Buddhist practice, this self-awareness is cultivated through vipassana insight meditation. It's a process of turning inward, observing thoughts and sensations without attachment. Over time, you begin to see how transient everything is. Thoughts rise and fall, emotions surge and fade. Even pain, when observed, changes its texture. It becomes less sharp, more spacious. The more you witness without clinging, the freer you become. You stop identifying with temporary states. You start to see that peace is your natural state, not something you must earn. To live as the source means to approach every moment as a mirror. When someone criticizes you, instead of reacting defensively, ask, "What in me is reacting? Is this touching an old wound?" When someone praises you, ask, "Can I receive this without attaching my worth to it?" When you feel hurt, ask, "What belief made this possible?" Each question turns your focus inward, not in guilt, but in growth. Life stops being something that happens to you and becomes something that happens through you. You realize that the world is constantly offering feedback about the energy you emit. There is profound peace in this realization, because when you see yourself as the source, you stop being powerless. You stop waiting for apologies that may never come. You stop blaming others for not giving you what you never gave yourself. You understand that no one can take your peace unless you hand it to them. No one can make you feel small unless you believe their words. You recognize that love, joy, and worthiness are not rewards but birthrights, inner states that exist regardless of who stays or leaves. When you master this awareness, relationships transform. You no longer enter them to fill a void. You enter them to share fullness. You don't project your insecurities onto others or make them responsible for your happiness. You allow people to be themselves because you are no longer trying to control the reflection. Love becomes lighter, freer, and more genuine. And when loss comes, as it always does, you can grieve without collapsing, because your peace was never built on the temporary, it was built on the eternal awareness within. Seeing yourself as the source also means becoming conscious of the energy you contribute to the world. Every thought, word, and action ripples outward. When you speak from anger, you plant seeds of anger. When you speak from compassion, you plant seeds of peace. You begin to understand that your inner world and the outer world are not separate. They are reflections of each other, as within, so without. When you heal your inner wounds, you stop bleeding onto others. When you find peace within, you naturally become a source of peace around you. The Buddha compared the awakened mind to a clear lake. When the surface is still, it reflects the sky perfectly. When it's disturbed, the reflection becomes distorted. Most people live with ripples of fear, resentment, and desire, so they see a distorted world, one filled with enemies, scarcity, and struggle. But when your mind becomes still through awareness, the reflection becomes clear. You see things as they truly are, impermanent, interconnected, and beautiful. You realize that peace was never hidden. It was just obscured by your own agitation. This awareness doesn't make life perfect, but it makes you free. You still experience ups and downs, but they no longer define you. You can lose everything external and still remain centered because your foundation is no longer built on sand. You've discovered that the real temple isn't outside, it's the consciousness inside you. And once you begin living from this space, every situation becomes sacred, every challenge becomes a teacher, every encounter becomes an opportunity to express awareness in action. When you truly see yourself as the source, gratitude naturally blossoms. You begin to thank life not only for what feels good, but also for what feels difficult, because you understand that both are part of your awakening. The people who betrayed you showed you where you abandoned yourself. The moments of failure revealed where your faith was shallow. The loneliness showed you that your own presence was enough. Everything has been leading you back to yourself. So, look into the mirror of your life and see it for what it is, not a punishment, but a reflection. The love you give, the peace you cultivate, the awareness you practice, these are the paints that color your reflection. Stop trying to change the image and start changing the intention behind it. When your inner world is harmonious, the outer world begins to echo that harmony back to you in unexpected ways. And finally, remember this: you are not the reflection you see, you are the light that makes reflection possible. The world may change its form, people may come and go, storms may pass across the surface of your life, but the light remains. You are that light. The more you recognize it, the more your reality bends to reflect it. You stop living as a shadow of your fears and begin to live as the source of your peace, your love, and your truth. That is the ultimate awakening, not to escape the world, but to see it clearly through the stillness of your own mind. When you understand that everything you seek was never lost, you stop chasing and start being. You stop looking into the mirror for validation and start glowing from within. And in that glow, calm, constant, and self-sustained, you find the unbreakable truth. You were never the reflection trying to find the light. You were the light all along. In the end, every lesson, every heartbreak, every silence, and every small victory has been guiding you back to one simple truth: you were never incomplete. The love you chased, the approval you begged for, the peace you tried to find in others, they were reflections of something that already existed inside you. The entire journey through self-doubt, through healing, through awakening, has never been about becoming something new. It has always been about remembering who you already are. Buddhism teaches that enlightenment is not a destination somewhere far away. It is the realization of what has always been present. The stillness beneath the noise, the calm beneath the chaos, the awareness beneath the pain. When you strip away the layers of fear, attachment, and illusion, what remains is something eternal, your true self, untouched by the world, whole and complete. Loving yourself deeply is not arrogance, it is alignment. It means honoring your soul, setting boundaries that protect your peace, and choosing yourself without apology. It means no longer begging for love in places that require you to abandon your truth. It means knowing that you are not defined by who leaves, what breaks, or what fades. You are defined by the love and awareness that remain. When you become so in love with yourself that no one can break you again, you stop chasing the world, and the world begins to flow toward you. You attract peace instead of chaos, authenticity instead of games, depth instead of distraction. You start giving love freely because you no longer fear running out. You become calm in uncertainty, kind in anger, and steady in loss, because your peace is no longer something that depends on others. It lives inside you, quietly, unshakably. You start to realize that the purpose of life was never to be perfect, but to be present, to live with an open heart in an impermanent world, to give love without clinging, to receive it without fear, and to let go without bitterness. The one who learns this becomes free, not free from pain, but free from being controlled by it. So, walk gently with yourself. Forgive what you didn't know before you knew it. Thank your past selves for surviving what they had to. Look at your reflection with softness and whisper to yourself, "You are home." Because when you love yourself so completely that even your silence feels whole, nothing outside you can disturb the peace within, and that the quiet, fearless love that begins and ends with you is the greatest power a human being can ever hold.